On May 9th, Red Square usually hosts a massive display of military hardware, but this time, the Victory Day parade was the smallest in history. There were no tanks, no missiles, and no advanced systems, only columns of infantry. Moving armor to the front lines is the official explanation for the shortened ceremony. However, security analysts noted that the austere nature of the event reflects an atmosphere of internal insecurity that has fundamentally changed the way the regime presents itself. Reports from European intelligence agencies suggest this lack of security is tied to a specific obsession within the Kremlin, the fear of an internal plot to oust the president from power. These concerns have reportedly led the state to install surveillance systems inside the private homes of its own high-ranking military officials and government collaborators, following a wave of high-level assassinations. Entering 2026, the Russia we are seeing is no longer the resilient state of the first 2 years of the conflict. The strategy of using massive military spending to prop up the broader economy is reaching its limit. For the leadership, the immediate danger isn't just a military setback in Ukraine. It is the possibility that the momentum sustaining the regime's political survival is finally beginning to stall. The first signs of this friction are appearing at the foundation of the economy. Put simply, Russia is physically running out of people to keep its industries functioning. The official unemployment rate has dropped to a surreal 2%. While this looks like a sign of strength, the central bank has warned it is actually a symptom of an economy losing its workforce faster than it can replace them. This chart tracks the 3 specific factors draining the labor pool. First, the demographic crash of the 1990s limited the number of young people entering the market. Second, hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Central Asia have left for better-paying jobs elsewhere. Finally, the military meat grinder has absorbed 1 million men for the war effort. Combined with the massive waves of immigration that followed the invasion, the Russian workforce has shrunk by roughly 2% in just a few years. To fill these gaps, the state has turned to universities. Higher education institutions are now being used as recruitment centers, pressuring students to join the drone forces as the skilled workforce comes under strain. Without workers, even record levels of government spending cannot produce the goods or services needed to sustain the country's growth. For years, the state's primary lifeline has been its oil and gas sector. In April of this year alone, oil producers paid over $9 billion in taxes to the federal government. But that revenue is being methodically targeted. Ukrainian drone strikes on refineries and storage facilities have recently knocked out hundreds of thousands of barrels of daily production capacity. This chart shows the momentum running out. After years of modest growth fueled by military spending, the economy contracted in the first quarter of 2026, officially entering negative territory. As growth stalls, prices are climbing. While the official inflation rate sits at 6%, independent estimates suggest the real figure has likely reached double digits. Central Bank Governor Elvira Nabiullina has already warned that the federal budget deficit is the primary driver of this inflation, and she has responded with aggressive interest rate hikes. These high rates have effectively frozen credit for small businesses and self-employed individuals, leaving them with no way to finance their operations outside of the defense sector. To compensate for the deficit, the government has implemented a significant tax hike, raising the standard VAT to 22% and increasing corporate taxes to 25%. The result is a civilian economy trapped between rising taxes, spiraling inflation, and a total lack of affordable credit. This macroeconomic decline is now visibly affecting daily life. For the first time since the war began, Russian society is seeing a sharp decline in its actual purchasing power. To manage the resulting discontent, the government has imposed the most severe internet restrictions since the fall of the Soviet Union, making even common VPNs ineffective. These blocks have had a side effect on the economy. They have paralyzed millions of small businesses and self-employed people who used platforms like Telegram and WhatsApp for sales and promotion. This chart from a state-run polling agency shows the impact on public opinion. The president's approval rating has been falling for 7 consecutive weeks, reaching its lowest point since the start of the invasion. The physical and financial costs of the conflict have finally broken through the government's narrative, leading to a period of individual and economic restriction that the public is no longer willing to ignore. This domestic pressure has created a new reality. Nearly 7 out of 10 Russians now support the launch of a negotiated peace process to end the economic strain. This public desperation stands in sharp contrast to the atmosphere of paranoia and isolation currently defining the inner circle of the Kremlin. The combined weight of a shrinking workforce and declining oil production has created a structural crisis that threatens the foundation of the current regime. To prevent a total internal collapse, the leadership is increasingly being forced toward the one thing they have resisted for 4 years, a return to the negotiation.